Lai Wei stood frozen on her apartment balcony, coffee mug slipping from her fingers and shattering on the concrete. The sound was lost in the cacophony erupting across the city. Car alarms wailed. People screamed. But all Wei could focus on was the impossible sight above her, a tear in reality itself, edges glowing with strange purple energy. From this cosmic wound emerged a ship. No, not just a ship, a behemoth of gleaming metal that reflected the morning sun with blinding intensity. It stretched longer than the city's financial district, a dagger-shaped monstrosity that seemed to defy physics as it hung there, motionless. Wei wasn't alone in her shock. Across the planet, identical rifts tore open above 23 major cities: New York, London, Cairo, Tokyo, Moscow. They appeared simultaneously, a coordinated arrival that left no doubt about its meaning. Humanity was no longer alone. All citizens, remain in your homes. The emergency broadcast system blared from her phone, abandoned on the coffee table. This is not a drill. Repeat, all citizens remain in your homes. Wei couldn't move if she wanted to. Her eyes remained fixed on the ship, its smooth surface unmarred by anything resembling windows or hatches. How many people were inside? What did they want? The silence stretched for 17 minutes. 17 minutes of collective breath-holding across the globe, before the ships made their next move. From the underside of each vessel, a beam of intense white light shot downward, striking the heart of each city. The beam that hit Beijing landed squarely on the Forbidden City, vaporizing centuries of history in an instant. Where the ancient palace complex had stood, there was now only a smoking crater. Wei's phone rang. It was her brother, Li Jun, a physicist at the Defense Science and Technology Laboratory. Wei, are you seeing this? His voice trembled. I'm looking at it right now, she answered, her own voice unnaturally calm despite the chaos. What's happening, Jun? We don't know. Military communications are in shambles. The Americans, Russians, Chinese, everyone's scrambling. These things appeared simultaneously across the globe. Wei. That's not possible with our understanding of physics. A new sound drew Wei's attention back to the ship. A low, vibrating hum that seemed to penetrate through walls, through flesh, through bone. It resonated at a frequency that made her teeth ache and her vision blur. They're broadcasting something, Jun said urgently. We're picking up a signal. Every screen on Earth, televisions, computers, phones, even digital billboards, flickered simultaneously. The images they had been displaying vanished, replaced by a single entity. The being on the screens was vaguely humanoid, with elongated limbs and skin that resembled burnished copper. Its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, were solid black, reflecting no light. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, the words appeared as text across the bottom of every screen in what appeared to be every written language on Earth. People of Earth, the message read, the galactic hegemony claims this world. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender your governing authorities. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. The transmission ended. Screens returned to their previous displays, though few people were paying attention to them anymore. Wei's phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Jun, she whispered, what do we do? There was a long pause before her brother responded. I need to get to you. Stay where you are. Don't leave your apartment. The line went dead. Wei stared up at the enormous ship hovering above her city, its presence an impossible weight pressing down on her consciousness. 24 hours. One day to surrender to an alien force that had already demonstrated its willingness to destroy. She didn't know it yet, but her brother was already racing against time, carrying with him a secret that would change humanity's fate forever. Chapter 2. The Hidden Program. Dr. Li Jun's security badge barely had time to register as he slanted against the scanner. The reinforced doors of the underground facility, buried beneath an unassuming office building in Beijing's outskirts, slid open with maddening slowness. Status report. He barked as he entered the command center, a cavernous room filled with blinking monitors and harried scientists. Colonel Zhang Wei, no relation to Jun's sister, looked up from where he was bent over a holographic display. His face was ashen. The Americans have already attempted a missile strike against the Los Angeles ship. No effect. The Russians tried an experimental EMP weapon in Moscow. Also nothing. Jun nodded grimly. He'd expected as much. And Project Orpheus. The room went quiet. Every eye turned to him. "You can't be serious," Zhang said quietly. "We don't even know if it works." The simulations. The simulation showed a 67% chance of success. Jun interrupted. "Those are better odds than we have with conventional weapons, which is 0. Project Orpheus had been Jun's obsession for the past decade. Born from his research into quantum entanglement, it proposed a radical theory that consciousness itself could be weaponized across dimensional barriers. The Chinese government had funded his research in secret, seeing its potential military applications, but they'd never expected to use it against an extraterrestrial threat. "Prep the chamber," Jun ordered, "and get me Director Zhao on the secure line." As the team scrambled to obey, Jun's thoughts turned to his sister. Wei had always been the brave one, ever since they were children. He'd chosen the path of science, of research conducted in safe, sterile laboratories. She had become a war correspondent, reporting from conflict zones across the world, until an IED in Syria had sent her home with a titanium rod in her leg and nightmares that never quite faded. He needed her strength now. Director Zhao's face appeared on the main screen, lines of exhaustion already etched deeply around his eyes. "Dr. Lai, I assume you're calling about Orpheus." "It's our only option," Jun said without preamble. "We need authorization. The UN Security Council is meeting in emergency session. The Americans are talking about nuclear options." "Nuclear weapons won't work," Jun insisted. "These ships manipulate space-time itself. They can likely shunt the energy from any conventional attack into another dimension. Orpheus operates on different principles. It targets consciousness directly." Zhao was silent for a long moment. "You understand what you're asking. If this fails, if we do nothing, we're dead anyway," Jun said quietly. Another pause. "You have authorization. May God help us all." The connection terminated. Jun turned to face his team, all watching him with varying expressions of fear and hope. "Begin the Orpheus protocol," he announced. "And someone get me a secure line to my sister. I need her here." As the lab burst into activity, Jun moved to a sealed door at the rear of the command center. His handprint and retinal scan unlocked it, revealing a small spherical chamber. At its center floated a device unlike anything in humanity's known technological arsenal, a crystalline structure that pulsed with an inner light, suspended in midair without visible support. This was the heart of Project Orpheus, a quantum consciousness amplifier that had been developed using principles that Jun had discovered in ancient texts from Tibet, combined with cutting-edge physics. The theory was elegant but terrifying. Consciousness itself was a fundamental force of the universe, capable of affecting reality when properly focused. His phone buzzed. It was Wei. "Jun, what's happening?" "The ship, it just vaporized another building. The military is evacuating people, but there's panic everywhere." "Wei, listen carefully," Jun said, his voice low and urgent. "I need you to come to the address I'm about to send you. Tell the guards that you're Orpheus kin. They'll let you through." "What? Jun, what are you involved in?" He closed his eyes briefly. "Possibly our only hope. I need you. Wei. Please." There was a pause, then his sister's voice, steady despite everything. "Send the address. I'll be there." Jun ended the call and turned back to the pulsing crystal. He placed his palm against it, feeling the strange vibration that always reminded him of a heartbeat. "Hold on, everyone," he whispered. "Help is coming." Chapter 3. The Chosen Vessel. Wei limped through the chaotic streets, leaning heavily on her cane. The titanium rod in her leg ached with each step, a permanent souvenir from a war zone half a world away. Around her, Beijing had descended into controlled chaos. Military personnel directing evacuations, emergency vehicles wailing, and above it all, the impossible ship still hovering, its presence a constant reminder of humanity's newfound fragility. She reached the address Jun had sent, an unremarkable office building that seemed strangely untouched by the panic surrounding it. 2 armed guards flanked the entrance, their expressions grim. "I'm Orpheus Kin," Wei said, the strange phrase feeling foreign on her tongue. The guards exchanged looks before one spoke into his radio. After a moment, they stepped aside, and the door slid open. 19th floor. The elevator requires no buttons, the guard instructed. Wei stepped into the elevator, which descended rather than ascending as she'd expected. The sensation of moving deep underground intensified her unease. What had Jun gotten himself involved in? When the doors opened, her brother was waiting. He looked haggard, his lab coat wrinkled in dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming," he said, embracing her briefly. "We don't have much time." He led her through a series of security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last, until they reached a vast underground chamber humming with activity. Scientists and military personnel moved with urgent purpose among banks of equipment Wei couldn't begin to identify. "Jun, what is this place?" she asked, her reporter's instincts kicking in despite the circumstances. "Project Orpheus," he replied, guiding her toward a central platform where a strange crystalline device pulsed with inner light. "Our last hope," he explained quickly, in terms simplified enough for her to grasp the basics. The crystal was a consciousness amplifier, developed in secret over the past decade. It could project human thought across dimensional barriers, potentially reaching even the aliens. "But why am I here?" Wei asked, suspicion growing. Jun hesitated. "The device requires a vessel, someone with exceptional mental resilience, someone who has faced trauma and survived, someone with a strong connection to the operator. Me." Wei took a step back. "You want to use me as some kind of psychic weapon." "I want you to deliver a message," Jun corrected, "one that might save humanity." Before Wei could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Colonel Zhang rushed toward them, face pale. "The 24-hour deadline has been shortened," he reported. "They're beginning systematic destruction of infrastructure. Power grids are failing worldwide." As if to punctuate his words, the lights flickered. Emergency generators kicked in almost immediately, but the message was clear. Time was running out. Wei looked at the crystal, then at her brother. "What would I have to do?" "Sit in the chamber," Jun explained, pointing to a glass enclosure surrounding the floating crystal. "I'll operate the equipment. Your consciousness will be expanded. You'll be able to reach them." "And then what?" Jun's expression was grim. "Deliver our warning." "Warning? We're the ones being invaded. Trust me, why? Please." Something in his eyes, a mixture of fear and desperate hope, made her decision. Wei nodded. "Let's do it." The preparation was minimal. They attached sensors to Wei's temples and wrists, monitoring her vital signs. She sat in a chair within the glass chamber, the crystal hovering at eye level before her. "Focus on the light within the crystal," Jun instructed through a speaker. "Let your thoughts quiet. When I activate the device, you may feel disoriented. That's normal." Wei fixed her gaze on the pulsing crystal. "What's the message I'm supposed to deliver?" Through the glass, she saw Jun exchange glances with Colonel Zhang. Then her brother leaned toward the microphone. "Tell them, we are not alone. Awaken the Guardians." Before Wei could ask what that meant, Jun pressed a sequence of commands on his console. The crystal before her flared with blinding intensity. Wei felt a sensation like being pulled in every direction simultaneously, her consciousness stretching beyond the confines of her body, beyond the chamber, beyond the earth itself. She screamed, but no sound emerged from her physical form. In that moment, Lai Wei ceased to be merely human, and somewhere above, aboard the lead ship of the invasion fleet, something ancient and terrible stirred in response. Chapter 4. The Mind Bridge. Wei's consciousness expanded like a supernova, her sense of self dissolving into an ocean of awareness that extended far beyond her physical body. Colors she had no names were swirled around her. Sensations beyond human comprehension bombarded what remained of her identity. Focus. She told herself, clutching desperately at the fading thread of her humanity. Remember why you're here. Through the chaos of this expanded perception, Wei became aware of other minds. Thousands upon thousands of them, alien and incomprehensible, their thoughts patterns so different from human consciousness that merely brushing against them sent shockwaves of disorientation through her being. These were the invaders, their collective consciousness a vast network spanning the fleet above Earth. Wei pushed toward them, riding waves of quantum entanglement that Jun's device had generated. The alien minds recoiled at her approach, surprise rippling through their collective consciousness. They had not expected this, a human consciousness reaching across dimensional barriers to touch their own. We seized that moment of surprise. With every ounce of her will, she projected the message Jun had given her. We are not alone. Awaken the Guardians. The effect was instantaneous and violent. Alarm cascaded through the alien consciousness. Fear, raw and primal, erupted where there had been only cold calculation before. Images flashed through the connection. Massive beams of light and energy, ancient battlefields among the stars, civilizations reduced to ash. The Guardians. They know of the Guardians. This thought came not from Wei, but from the alien collective itself, unintentionally transmitted through the connection she had established. Their fear washed over her like a tsunami, threatening to drown her fragile human consciousness. In the physical world, Jun watched in horror as his sister's body convulsed in the chair, blood trickling from her nose and ears. The monitoring equipment screamed warnings as her vital signs spiked dangerously. "Pull her out," Colonel Zhang shouted. "She's going into shock." "We can't," Jun yelled back, fingers flying over the controls. "The connection has to be severed from both ends. If we force it, we could lose her completely." In the mind bridge, Wei felt herself beginning to fragment, her consciousness pulled apart by the alien fear response. But in that moment of near dissolution, she glimpsed something else, knowledge flowing unbidden from the alien collective. They called themselves the Vexari, a species that had conquered 300 worlds across 7 galaxies. They were the advance force of the galactic hegemony, tasked with claiming resource-rich planets for their empire. But beneath their conquest lay a deeper motive: fear. They expanded relentlessly because they were running from something. Ancient entities they believed lay dormant in the uncharted regions of space, entities they called guardians. And somehow, impossibly, these invaders believed that humans knew of these guardians, perhaps even control them. You are mistaken. Wei projected, gathering the fragments of herself through sheer force of will. We know nothing of these guardians, but we will fight you with everything we have. Another image flashed through the connection. A massive fleet, thousands of times larger than the invasion force currently threatening Earth, gathered at the edge of the Milky Way. The main force of the hegemony, awaiting confirmation of Earth's surrender before committing their resources. With her last reserves of strength, Wei pushed one final thought through the connection. If you destroy us, the Guardians will awaken. Is that a risk you're willing to take? Then, mercifully, darkness claimed her. In the chamber below Beijing, alarms wailed as Wei's body went limp in the chair. Jun rushed in, heedless of safety protocols, gathering his sister's unconscious form in his arms. Wei, can you hear me?" Her eyes remained closed, but her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. She was alive, barely. "Get a medical team here now," Jun shouted, cradling his sister's head. As emergency responders swarmed into the chamber, Colonel Zhang's voice came urgently over the intercom. Dr. Lai, the ships, they're pulling back, moving out of Earth's atmosphere. Jun looked up, disbelief warring with desperate hope. What? All 23 vessels are retreating. They've ceased all hostile actions and are accelerating toward the outer solar system. Jun looked down at his sister's pale face. She did it, he whispered. Whatever happened up there, she did it. But the victory felt hollow with Wei lying unconscious in his arms, blood drying on her face. What price had she paid for humanity's salvation? And what would happen when the aliens discovered the truth, that humanity knew nothing of any guardians, that Wei's warning had been a desperate bluff? As medical personnel lifted Wei onto a stretcher, her eyes fluttered open briefly. Her gaze, unfocused and distant, found Jun's face. They're coming, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The real war hasn't even begun. Then her eyes closed again, leaving Jun with a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of the underground facility. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, the Vexari fleet accelerated to faster-than-light speeds, a tactical retreat to report this unexpected development to the hegemony leadership. Their departure bought humanity time, but how much remained an open question. In the depths of space, something ancient stirred from eons of slumber, roused by the psychic echo of Wei's desperate gambit, something that even the mighty hegemony feared. Something that had been waiting. Chapter 5. Echoes in the Void. 7 days after the retreat of the alien fleet, Wei finally opened her eyes. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitoring equipment. Sunlight streamed through half-closed blinds, casting striped shadows across the blanket covering her legs. Welcome back. Jun sat beside her bed, unshaven and exhausted. The dark circles under his eyes suggested he barely left her side. Wei tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. Jun quickly offered her water, holding the straw to her cracked lips. How long? She managed after several sips. A week, Jun replied. You've been in and out of consciousness. The doctors weren't sure. He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Wei closed her eyes briefly, sorting through fragmented memories of her experience. Some felt like dreams, others terrifyingly real. The ships. Gone. All of them left orbit shortly after your connection. They've passed Jupiter's orbit already, still accelerating. Relief washed over her, followed immediately by uncertainty. It worked? What I said scared them off. Jun's expression was troubled. Apparently. The question is, why? What exactly happened when you connected with them? Wei. She struggled to organize her thoughts, to separate actual communication from the hallucinatory aspects of the experience. They're called the Vexari, part of something larger, a hegemony. But they're afraid, June terrified of these guardians. And they thought we knew about these guardians, that we could somehow control them. Wei shook her head slightly, wincing at the pain the movement caused. Not control. Awaken. They believed the phrase you gave me was some kind of activation code or signal. Jun exchanged a glance with someone Wei hadn't noticed until now, Colonel Zhang, standing quietly in the corner of the room. What? Wei asked, sensing their unease. That message, Jun said carefully. It wasn't random. It was found in ancient texts, prehistoric petroglyphs discovered in caves across 6 continents. Always the same symbols, dating back over 30,000 years. Scholars translated them as, "We are not alone. Awaken the guardians." We stared at her brother. You knew this would frighten them. We hoped it might give them pause, Zhang interjected. But we had no idea it would cause a full retreat. A chill ran through Wei. There's something else. Something I saw it in their minds. The ships that came here, they were just an advance force, a reconnaissance fleet. The main armada is waiting at the edge of our galaxy. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. How much time do we have? Zhang finally asked. I don't know, but they'll be back. Once they realized we were bluffing. Were we? Jun interrupted, his voice unnaturally quiet. Wei stared at him. What are you saying? Those ancient symbols, they were found alongside images we couldn't decipher. Beams of light, massive structures in space, things that didn't make sense until now. Jun leaned forward, his expression intense. What if it wasn't a bluff? Why? What if the Guardians are real? Before she could respond, the room's lights flickered. The monitoring equipment emitted a high-pitched whine before going silent. Power surge, John muttered, moving toward the window. Then he froze. Dr. Lai, you need to see this. Jun joined him at the window, his sharp intake of breath drawing Wei's attention. With effort, she pushed herself up in the bed to see what had caused their reaction. The sky above Beijing was changing. Ripples of light, like aurora borealis, but in impossible geometric patterns, spread across the blue expanse. Where they intersected, the fabric of reality seemed to thin, becoming translucent. Wei's heart raced as a sensation washed over her, a feeling of recognition, of connection to whatever was happening in the sky. The same feeling she'd experienced in the quantum chamber, but stronger now, more focused. Jun, she whispered, not taking her eyes from the sky. I can feel them. Feel what? Her brother asked, his voice tight with apprehension. Before she could answer, her consciousness expanded once more, not violently as before, but with a gentle inevitability, like a flower opening to the sun. Through this expanded awareness, Wei sensed presences beyond human comprehension, ancient and powerful, stirring from eons of dormancy. And they were responding to her. The Guardians, she breathed. They're real, and they're waking up. In the sky above, the geometric patterns coalesced into a vast shape, a symbol identical to those found in ancient caves across Earth, a message written in light, visible to every human eye that looked upward. Humanity was not alone. It never had been. And the real war, as Wei had whispered in her delirium, was just beginning. Chapter 6. The Awakening. Global communications networks collapsed within hours of the sky phenomenon. Satellites failed. Internet connections severed. Cell towers went silent. The world held its collective breath, waiting for what would come next. In her hospital room, Wei had become the center of a hastily assembled crisis response team. Military officials, scientists, and government representatives crowded around her bed, their faces taut with barely controlled fear. You need to explain exactly what's happening, demanded General Chen, China's highest-ranking military officer. What did you connect with? What are these patterns in the sky? Wei struggled to articulate what she was experiencing. They're not entirely separate entities, more like facets of a single consciousness. Ancient, patient. They've been waiting. Waiting for what? Someone asked. For us to need them, Wei replied simply. Jun stood protectively at his sister's side. Whatever connection Wei established with the alien fleet seems to have had unintended consequences. It sent a ripple through space-time that roused these Guardians. And are they friendly? General Chen pressed. Wei closed her eyes, reaching outward with her newly expanded consciousness. The Guardian's presence was overwhelming, like trying to comprehend an ocean by examining a single drop of water. They're not friendly or unfriendly in any human sense, she finally said. They're guardians of balance. They've intervened before, when civilizations like the hegemony threatened to destabilize entire regions of space. Intervened how? Zhang asked quietly. Wei opened her eyes, her expression troubled. Extinction-level events. Suns going supernova. Gamma-ray bursts. Black holes appearing where none existed before. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So we've called forth something that might destroy us along with the aliens, General Chen said flatly. No, Wei said with surprising certainty. They're responding to me, to humanity. I can direct them, to an extent. They recognize us as under their protection. Why? Jun asked. What makes humans special? Wei hesitated. Because we're their descendants, or at least partly. The ancient symbols, the identical petroglyphs across continents, they were left by the Guardians when they visited Earth thousands of years ago. They interbred with early humans. That's preposterous, one of the scientists objected. Is it more preposterous than what's happening in our sky right now? Wei challenged. The Guardians seeded themselves into our genetic code. They're part of us, dormant until needed. And now they've awakened, Jun murmured. Not fully, Wei corrected. Not yet. But they will, if the hegemony returns. As if in response to her words, the hospital room's lights flickered again. The geometric patterns in the sky pulsed with increased intensity. Wei gasped, her back arching as new information flooded her consciousness. They're coming, she whispered. The hegemony. They've detected the Guardians' awakening. The main fleet has changed course, heading directly for Earth. How long do we have? General Chen demanded. 3 days, Wei replied, her voice distant. They're moving faster than should be possible, bending space-time to reduce the journey. Why come at all if they fear these Guardians so much? Because they fear what will happen if they don't contain this threat now, Wei explained. They believe if the Guardians fully awaken here, nothing will stop them from spreading throughout the galaxy. Jun gripped his sister's hand. What can we do? Wei turned to him, her eyes reflecting the strange light from outside. Help me stand. Take me outside. I need to be under open sky. You're too weak, Jun began. There's no time, Wei interrupted. The connection is stronger outside. I need to reach the Guardians fully before the hegemony arrives. Despite medical objections, Wei was helped from her bed. Her legs trembled with weakness as Jun and Zhang supported her weight. Together, they made their way to the hospital roof, a procession of military and scientific personnel following in tense silence. The sky above was no longer recognizable. The geometric patterns had multiplied and expanded, covering the entire visible dome of the heavens. Where they intersected, the fabric of reality itself seemed to thin, revealing glimpses of something beyond, vast structures and beings of pure energy moving in dimensions beyond human comprehension. Wei broke away from her supporters, staggering forward on unsteady legs until she stood alone in the center of the rooftop. She raised her arms, palms upward, her face lifted to the transformed sky. What is she doing? Someone whispered. Becoming the bridge, Jun replied, understanding Dawn. Even as he spoke the words. The vessel. Wei's body began to glow with the same ethereal light that filled the sky. The patterns above seemed to respond, reaching downward with tendrils of energy that connected with her upraised hands. When she spoke again, her voice resonated with harmonics that no human vocal cords could produce. I am the Awakener. I call upon the ancient pact. Earth stands at the threshold. The hegemony approaches. The cycle begins anew. Light erupted from Wei's form, shooting upward to join the geometric patterns. For one breathtaking moment, she was the center of a vast web of energy that extended beyond sight, beyond Earth's atmosphere, into the depths of space itself. Then she collapsed, Jun barely reaching her in time to break her fall. But in that moment of connection, something fundamental had changed. The patterns in the sky stabilized, no longer shifting but forming a vast, complex symbol that spanned the heavens. And across the solar system, ancient structures, dormant for millennia, began to activate. Beneath the surfaces of Mars, Venus, Europa, and Titan, in the depths of gas-giant atmospheres, within the Oort cloud, the Guardians' defense network, hidden in plain sight since before humans had discovered fire, powered up to meet the coming threat. On the rooftop, Wei opened her eyes, now luminous with inner light. It has begun, she whispered. Chapter 7. Hegemony's Approach. The hegemony battle fleet emerged from folded space at the edge of the solar system, their sudden appearance disrupting the orbits of trans-Neptunian objects and sending ripples of gravitational distortion outward. 5,000 ships, each one larger than the vessels that had first approached Earth, each one armed with weapons capable of reducing planets to molten slag. On the flagship, Arch Commander Vex Hera received the initial sensor readings with mounting dread. The quantum signatures were unmistakable. Guardian technology, active and spreading throughout the solar system. Impossible, he hissed, his copper-hued skin darkening with stress patterns. The Guardians were eradicated eons ago. The readings are confirmed, Arch Commander, his second reported, mandibles clicking nervously. Guardian energy signatures are emanating from multiple points within this system. Vex Hera's three eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. And the primary source. The third planet, Earth. The Arch Commander's elongated fingers tapped a complex rhythm on the command console. The humans. They've awakened something they cannot possibly understand. Your orders, Arch Commander. Vex Hera hesitated only briefly. The hegemony directive is clear. Guardian technology must be contained at all costs. Prepare the void cascades. We will sterilize this system before the contagion can spread. On Earth, humanity watched and waited. The transformed sky had become a constant reminder of their changed reality. Governments struggled to maintain order. Religious leaders proclaimed apocalypse or salvation, depending on their interpretation. Scientists worked feverishly to understand what was happening. And in Beijing, Wei had become something other than entirely human. The fleet has arrived, she announced suddenly, sitting upright in her hospital bed where she had been resting since the rooftop incident. They're preparing to attack. Jun and Colonel Zhang, who had barely left her side, exchanged alarmed glances. How do you know? Zhang asked. Wei turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly with internal light. I can see them. The Guardian's defense network is fully active now. It's feeding me information. What kind of attack? Jun pressed. How much time do we have? They're deploying weapons called void cascades, Wei explained, her voice unnaturally calm. They create ruptures in space-time that expand outward, consuming everything they touch. Nothing physical can survive. How do we stop them? Zhang demanded. Wei's expression remained serene despite the horror of her words. We don't. The Guardians will. As if on cue, the geometric patterns in the sky pulsed with renewed intensity. Across the solar system, dormant structures, some the size of small moons, activated fully, their ancient technology responding to the approaching threat. On Mars, a massive construct rose from beneath the Valles Marineris, dust storms raging around it as it broke the surface after millions of years of concealment. Within Jupiter's great red spot, revealed now as an enormous camouflage mechanism, a weapon platform larger than Earth itself powered up, drawing energy from the gas giant's core. Similar activations occurred across the solar system, a defense grid of unimaginable power revealing itself in response to the hegemony's approach. In his flagship, Arch Commander Vex Hera watched with growing horror as his tactical displays registered the awakening defenses. Impossible, he whispered. The Guardians were myths, stories to frighten hatchlings. Arch Commander, his second interrupted urgently. We're receiving a transmission. From Earth. Put it through. The display before him shifted, revealing a human female with glowing eyes. When she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that sent cold fear through Vex Hera's body. I am the Awakener, Wei said, her voice carrying easily across the vast distance. You have violated protected space. The Guardians have returned. Withdraw immediately or face extinction. Vex Hera's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The hegemony does not recognize Guardian authority. This system will be cleansed for the greater stability of the galaxy. Wei's expression remained unchanged. You were warned. The transmission ended. Vex Hera turned to his weapons officer. Launch the void cascades. Target the third planet first. Across the hegemony fleet, launch bays opened. Hundreds of sleek, missile-like objects accelerated toward the inner solar system, each carrying enough destructive potential to unmake a world. They never reached their targets. From Jupiter's transformed red spot, a pulse of golden energy erupted, expanding outward in a perfect sphere. Where it touched the void cascades, the weapons simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but removed from reality itself, as if they had never been. Vex Hera stared at his tactical display in disbelief as hundreds of their most powerful weapons vanished in an instant. "Impossible," he whispered, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "Nothing can neutralize a void cascade once launched." "Arch Commander," his second reported, voice trembling, "we're detecting energy buildups across the system. Mars, Venus, Titan, all Guardian structures are powering weapon systems." Before Vex Hera could respond, a new transmission came through. Wei's glowing eyes filled the screen once more. "This is your final warning," she said, her voice resonating with otherworldly harmonics. "The Guardians have chosen humanity as their vessels. This system is protected. Leave immediately or be eliminated." Vex Hera snarled, his copper skin flushing dark with rage. "The hegemony has cleansed 1,000 worlds. We will not be threatened by primitive beings wielding technology they cannot possibly understand." He turned to his fleet commanders. "Full attack formation. Deploy all weapons. I want that planet reduced to its component atoms." The massive hegemony fleet surged forward, weapons systems charging. 5,000 ships, each capable of devastating an entire continent, arranged in attack formation, the full might of an empire that had conquered 7 galaxies. On Earth, Wei watched through senses that extended far beyond human limitations. She felt the Guardian's consciousness merging further with her own ancient knowledge flowing into her mind like a river breaking through a dam. "They've made their choice," she said quietly to Jun and John, who remained at her side. "They choose extinction." In that moment, she understood fully what was about to happen, and her role in it. The Guardians had seeded themselves into human DNA millennia ago, waiting for the day when their protection would be needed. Wei was not just connected to them. She was becoming one of them, the human and Guardian aspects of her consciousness merging into something new. With a thought, she activated the full defense grid. Across the solar system, Guardian structures responded instantly. From Venus, a beam of white energy lanced outward, cutting through the leading edge of the hegemony fleet and vaporizing 50 ships in less than a second. From Titan, waves of distortion spread like ripples in a pond, catching hundreds more vessels and twisting their hulls into impossible shapes, crushing them from within. The massive construct beneath Mars's surface fired next, unleashing a cascade of micro-singularities that devoured hegemony ships by the dozen, each tiny black hole winking out of existence after consuming its target. Vex Hera watched in horror as his mighty fleet, the pride of the hegemony, was systematically dismantled. Ships that had survived battles across multiple galaxies were being destroyed with contemptuous ease. "Retreat," he finally ordered, panic evident in his voice. "All vessels, emergency fold. Get us out of this system." But the Guardian's defense network had anticipated this. From the Oort cloud, thousands of small diamond-shaped objects activated, generating a field that prevented space-time manipulation. The hegemony's escape route was cut off. "Arch Commander," his second reported, voice quavering, "fold generators are non-responsive. We're trapped in normal space." On the flagship's bridge, silence fell as the crew realized the magnitude of their predicament. The tactical display showed their fleet being systematically destroyed, hundreds of ships vanishing with each passing moment. "Open a channel to Earth," Vex Hera commanded, his voice hollow. To the human called Wei. When her face appeared on the screen, Vex Hera did something no Arch-Commander had done in the 10,000-year history of the hegemony. He surrendered. "The hegemony acknowledges the superior force," he stated formally. "We request cessation of hostilities and permission to withdraw." Wei's glowing eyes studied him for a long moment. The Guardians remember the worlds you've destroyed, Arch-Commander. The species extinguished. The balance disrupted. We followed our directive, Vex Hera responded. As you follow yours. Wei nodded slowly. Return to your hegemony. Tell them what you've witnessed here. Tell them Earth and this entire system are now under Guardian protection. Any future incursion will result in the complete dissolution of your empire. Relief washed over Vex Hera's features. It will be done. One more thing, Wei added. The Guardians require access to your star charts and navigational data. There are other emerging civilizations that require protection from your kind. Vex Hera hesitated only briefly before nodding. Transmitting now. As the data streamed from the Hegemony flagship to Earth, the Guardian structures across the solar system powered down their weapons but remained active, a visible reminder of the system's new protected status. The surviving Hegemony ships, less than a fifth of the original fleet, limped away from Earth's solar system once the space-time distortion field was selectively deactivated, their retreat monitored by Guardian sensors. On Earth, humanity began to grapple with its new reality. The sky remained transformed, the geometric patterns a constant reminder that they were no longer alone in the universe, and no longer unprotected. Chapter 8 Vessel of Change. 3 months after the Hegemony's retreat, Wei stood on a platform at the newly constructed Guardian Interface Complex outside Beijing. Before her stretched a vast crowd. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to hear the words of the woman who had become humanity's connection to their ancient protectors. She looked different now. Her once dark eyes glowed with inner light. Her movements held a fluid grace that seemed almost supernatural. The transformation that had begun during the crisis had continued, her human DNA gradually activating dormant Guardian sequences. Jum stood nearby, still protective of his sister despite, or perhaps because of, her transformation. He'd spent the intervening months helping the world's scientists understand the Guardian technology that now permeated the solar system, though much of it remained beyond human comprehension. People of Earth, Wei began, her voice carrying easily across the massive gathering without need for amplification. 3 months ago, our world faced extinction. Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era. The crowd listened in reverent silence as she continued. The Guardians have shared their knowledge with me. Knowledge I will now begin to share with all of humanity. They have watched our development for millennia, waiting for the moment when we would need their protection and be ready for their guidance. She gestured upward, where the geometric patterns still adorned the sky, though less prominently than during the crisis. These patterns are more than just a defense system. They are a language, a means of accessing knowledge accumulated across billions of years. Through them, we will learn to harness clean energy, cure diseases, extend human lifespan, and eventually join the Guardians as stewards of order in our galaxy. A murmur ran through the crowd, a mixture of awe and apprehension. But this gift comes with responsibility, Wei cautioned. The Guardians do not dictate how we use their knowledge. They merely ensure that the balance of creation is maintained. How we proceed, whether we use this knowledge for advancement or destruction, remains our choice. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled representatives. I stand before you not just as Wei, but as something new, a bridge between humanity and the Guardians. In time, others will join me. The dormant genetic sequences exist in all of us, to varying degrees. Some of you will experience changes similar to mine. Do not fear this evolution. Embrace it. As if to emphasize her point, Wei raised her hands. The geometric patterns in the sky responded, shifting and pulsing with new configurations. Around the complex, Guardian technology, sleek structures of unknown material that had emerged from the ground during the past months, hummed with increased activity. Today, we begin our true journey as a species, Wei announced. The stars are no longer beyond our reach. The Guardians have shown me visions of humanity's potential future, a future where we spread throughout the galaxy not as conquerors like the Hegemony, but as explorers and preservers of life. She lowered her hands, the display above fading back to its normal state. There will be challenges. The hegemony may return, despite our warning. Other threats exist in the darkness between stars, but we no longer face these challenges alone. Wei smiled, and for a moment, those closest to her could see the woman she had been before, the war correspondent who had faced human conflicts with courage and compassion. I was once asked what made humanity special, why the Guardians chose us. I now know the answer. It is our capacity for growth, for change, for seeing beyond our immediate interests to a larger purpose. The Guardians recognized this potential in our earliest ancestors. They nurtured it through subtle influence across millennia. And now, they call upon us to realize it. As Wei concluded her address, a new pattern formed in the sky, a symbol that appeared simultaneously over every major city on Earth. It resembled a double helix intertwined with geometric shapes, representation of the bond between humanity and their ancient protectors. Later that evening, Wei stood alone on the balcony of her apartment, looking out over Beijing. The city had changed since the crisis. Guardian structures now stood alongside human architecture, their presence a reminder of Earth's new status in the cosmic order. Jun joined her, offering a cup of tea. "Impressive speech," he said quietly. "You've given people hope." Wei accepted the tea with a small smile. Hope is necessary, but not sufficient. The challenges ahead are immense. The Guardians' knowledge, is it as vast as you implied? She nodded. More so, what they've shown me, Jun, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. Technologies that defy our understanding of physics. Historical records of civilizations that rose and fell before our sun was formed. And they're sharing all this with us. Why now? Wei turned to look at her brother, her luminous eyes reflecting the city lights. Because the balance is shifting. The hegemony's expansion has disrupted patterns that existed for billions of years. Other forces are stirring in response, forces even the Guardians fear. So we're being drafted into a cosmic conflict. Not drafted, Wei corrected. Invited. The Guardians believe in choice, in free will. They've shown me the possible futures, both the paths of advancement and the roads to destruction. Which we choose remains up to us. Jun studied his sister's transformed features. And you? What future do you choose, Wei? She smiled fully then, and for a moment looked entirely human despite her glowing eyes. I choose to be what I've always been, a bridge between worlds. Only now, those worlds are a bit farther apart. She turned back to the city, to the transformed sky above it. The Guardians have awakened in response to our need. But in doing so, they've set events in motion that cannot be undone. The galaxy will never be the same. And Earth? Jun asked quietly. Will we ever return to what we were before? Wei shook her head. There is no going back, only forward. But we go forward together, humanity and Guardians, bound by choice and necessity. In the vast depths of space, beyond the edges of Earth's solar system, the remnants of the hegemony fleet limped toward home, bearing news that would send shockwaves through their empire. The Guardians had returned, and they had chosen champions. And in the darkness between galaxies, ancient entities stirred, sensing the shift in the cosmic balance. The warning that Wei had delivered to the hegemony had echoed across dimensions, awakening forces that had slumbered since the birth of the universe itself. The real war, as Wei had predicted in her delirium, was indeed just beginning. But humanity would not face it alone. #epilogue. Guardians Rising. 5 years after the hegemony's retreat, Earth had transformed beyond recognition. Guardian technology, integrated with human innovation, had eliminated energy scarcity and environmental degradation. Disease was becoming a memory as medical science advanced decades in months. The first interplanetary colonies thrived on Mars and Europa, protected by the same defense network that had repelled the invasion. And throughout the solar system, Thousands of humans were undergoing the same transformation that had begun with Wei, becoming vessels for guardian consciousness, bridges between ancient wisdom and human potential. Wei herself had changed the most. Her physical form now shimmered with internal light, her movements fluid as if partially freed from gravity's constraints. She had become the primary conduit between humanity and the Guardians, guiding Earth's transition with wisdom that blended human compassion with cosmic perspective. On this particular day, she stood with Jun in a chamber deep beneath the Himalayas, a guardian structure that had revealed itself only recently, its existence unknown to humans despite being buried there for over 50,000 years. "Are you certain about this?" Jun asked, concern evident in his voice. Though he remained fully human, his work with guardian technology had given him insights few others possessed. Wei nodded, her luminous eyes fixed on the crystalline structure at the chamber center, a device similar to but far more advanced than the one that had first connected her consciousness to the Guardians years ago. "The signals are unmistakable," she replied. "The hegemony has fallen. Something else is emerging from the chaos, something older and more dangerous. The Guardians need to know." Intelligence gathered from across the galaxy, collected by the network of Guardian outposts now reactivating throughout the Milky Way, had confirmed Wei's fears. The hegemony's defeat had created a power vacuum, and from that vacuum had emerged entities that even the Guardians spoke of with caution. The precursors, beings that had existed before the Guardians themselves, thought to have been extinct for billions of years, now returned, their motives unknown but their power undeniable. "This device will allow me to extend my consciousness further than ever before," Wei explained, "to commune directly with the Guardian collective beyond our galaxy." Jun frowned. "The risks are necessary," Wei finished for him. "Balance must be maintained, brother. It's what the Guardians were created for, what we are becoming." Before Jun could object further, Wei stepped into the crystal chamber. The structure responded to her presence, illuminating with the same geometric patterns that still adorned Earth's sky. "I'll return," she promised, her voice already taking on the harmonic qualities that indicated deeper communion with the Guardian consciousness. "What I am now, what I'm becoming, can never be fully separated from from the human I was." Jun nodded, understanding that his sister was reassuring herself as much as him. The line between Wei and the Guardian aspect of her consciousness grew thinner with each passing day. This unprecedented extension of her awareness might erase that line completely. "I'll be waiting," he said simply. Wei smiled, that familiar, human smile that reminded Jun of their childhood, before closing her eyes and surrendering to the crystal's energy. Light erupted from her form, pulsing outward through the chamber in waves of impossible color. The crystal structure resonated in response, amplifying her consciousness and projecting it across vast stellar distances. Throughout Earth's solar system, every Guardian structure activated simultaneously, their energies joining with Wei's expanded awareness. A network that spanned the galaxy awoke in response, points of light igniting across the Milky Way like stars being born. And at the galactic core, something answered. A vast, ancient consciousness that had watched over the spiral arms for eons. The Guardian Collective, awakening fully for the first time since the dawn of the current cosmic age. In the Himalayan chamber, Jun watched as his sister's physical form became translucent, light pulsing through her in patterns that matched the crystal's resonance. Though her body remained, Wei's consciousness now extended across half the known universe, communing with entities beyond human comprehension. On Earth's surface, humans looked up as new patterns formed in the sky. More complex, more beautiful, more alien than anything seen before. In orbit, astronauts aboard the International Guardian Station reported seeing similar patterns propagating through space itself, visible manifestations of a conversation occurring on levels of reality humans were only beginning to understand. Hours passed before the light surrounding Wei began to dim. Her form solidified gradually, the translucence fading as her consciousness returned to the limitations of physical existence. When she finally opened her eyes, Jun saw something new there, knowledge that seemed to weigh on her despite her transformation. "They're coming," Wei said simply. "The precursors, and they bring with them the end of this cosmic cycle." "Can they be stopped?" Jun asked. Wei stepped from the crystal chamber, her movements now possessed of a certainty that seemed both reassuring and terrifying. "That," she said, "is what we're going to find out." She looked upward, though her gaze seemed to penetrate the mountain above them, focusing on something far beyond Earth. "The Guardian Collective has made a decision. Humanity will not just be protected. We will become partners. The next stage of Guardian evolution." "What does that mean?" Jun asked, sensing the magnitude of whatever had transpired during Wei's communion. "It means," Wei replied, "that the warning we gave the hegemony was more accurate than we knew. Earth truly is where the Guardians are awakening, not just as returning protectors, but as something new, a synthesis of human creativity and Guardian power." She placed a hand on her brother's shoulder. "And you, Jun, you who created the bridge that allowed this awakening, will be among the first to join me in the transformation." Jun felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. "Will I still be myself?" Wei smiled, and in that smile was all the reassurance he needed. "You will be yourself and more, as I am Wei and more. The Guardians do not replace, they enhance, combine, elevate." Above them, beyond the mountain's mass, the sky continued to shift with new patterns as the Guardian network transmitted the decision across the galaxy. Earth, once an insignificant planet orbiting an unremarkable star, had become the focal point of a cosmic renaissance. And humanity, faced with extinction mere years before, now stood at the threshold of an evolution beyond anything they could have imagined. "The real war," Wei said, echoing her words from 5 years ago, "is indeed just beginning. But now, we're ready." Across the stars, ancient entities stirred in response to the Guardian awakening. The precursors, sensing the shift in cosmic balance, turned their attention toward the spiral galaxy and the small blue planet that had somehow changed everything. The warning had been delivered. The Guardians had risen, and humanity rose with them. The EE&D